We were at AT&T Stadium last night as well, Jay.
Yes.
For an epic showdown between the Cowboys and the Packers.
Yeah, I didn't have a 40-40 tie on my bingo card, the first tie in the NFL in 3 years. It was a magnificent game, really. A lot of players played at an extremely high level. Chief among them, Dak Prescott and George Pickens. George Pickens goes for 33.4 yards. Also had a bad drop in there. Could have been even higher. Josh Jacobs, who left the game hurt at one point, came back in. He was incredible. I thought Dak Prescott, though, Matthew, was the real story. I thought Dak continues to play real life like a top 5-7 quarterback, and fantasy-wise, it's coming along as well.
Look, 31 of 40, 319 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. The rushing touchdown also impressive. Like, not something we've seen from Dak in a long, long time. And to your point, against one of what we think is one of the better defenses in the NFL, like, you know, my best bet on Football Night in America was Rashawn Gary, to get half a sack, right? He had 3 straight sacks. I'm like, their backup offensive line, they were missing 2 starters from the offensive line, the Cowboys were, and he didn't get home. You know, Micah got 1 sack late, which was a very generous ruling on a sack. It looked more like a tackle, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was someone who's got a lot of Micah Parsons to win Defensive Player of the Year. I was very happy with that stat allocation where I'm pretty sure Dak gained a yard on that run, but it was a bad spot, so the stat stands. But yeah, and also Dak, he was very close to running in that one for a second rushing touchdown for the game. But he was magnificent, and we heard from Dak specifically on how well George Pickens has stepped up as a wide receiver 1.
That's what he does. That's who he is, and that's what allows that chemistry to grow. Is when I get a guy who I've seen on film make play after play, and then he shows up here and he's not missed a beat, and he's getting better. He's getting older through experience and more mature. That trust just only grows more, and the chemistry is just going to expedite that whole process. And he's a hell of a player, and he loves football, and that's what I love most about George. He's a guy who loves football. He's a hell of a teammate, and he's always locked in, whether he's getting the ball or not in the past games when CD was here, or now he's the number 1 and he's being called upon. He embraces that role and that responsibility, and as I said, just the language and the things he was talking in the huddle, proud of him.
Yep, I think
So that's Dak Prescott on George Pickens.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that I was expecting this offense to be kind of stuck in the mud without CeeDee Lamb because it didn't look great against Chicago, but Pickens was awesome. Dak played at an incredibly high level. Great. So how much do you buy the idea that Dak Prescott can be a legitimate QB1 until CeeDee comes back?
Yeah, I mean, I think a low-end QB1. I mean, the problem is there's just not a lot of margin for error because, yes, he got the rushing touchdown here, and he was a little bit more spry than we've seen, but that's not a part of his game. So he needs to have high volume in terms of his passing and, a lot of passing touchdowns for him to be, a top 12-ish fantasy quarterback. But their defense is going to be terrible, continue to be terrible. And, Dak looks dialed in. He's fully healthy. He looks great, to your point. He was incredibly efficient last night. He looked the part of a franchise quarterback. And, getting the production they're getting from Pickens and Ferguson. Tolbert made an unbelievable catch down the sideline at the end of the game as well.
That's one of the best throws I've seen in my life. He's fading away with the game on the line, basically, and if he's able to hit Tolbert in the one spot where he can get it, it was an incredible pass and incredible catch.
Yeah, I mean, Tolbert made a great play to come back for the ball, but still, I thought he was throwing – when he first threw the ball, I'm like, oh, smart. Dak could play to get away from just to get rid of the ball and throw it out of bounds and didn't realize there was anyone down there to catch the ball. So, unbelievable play. So that's what I think he's – I think we may, he's as we head into Monday Night Football, he's the number 1 quarterback in fantasy. But I think we've probably seen his best game of the year. But the question was, can he be a QB1 this year? Can he be a top 12 fantasy quarterback? And I think he can. Now, again, as many touchdown passes in this game 3 that he had in the first 3 games combined. But I do think it is somewhat sustainable because the defense is that bad. Do I think they're putting up 40 every week? No. And again, I don't think the rushing is going to be something that's consistent. So I think more to the lower tier. But yes, I do think I'm buying into Dak is what I would say. And I'm also buying into George Pickens. Now, this is the second best fantasy game of his career. He's only had 3 where he's been north of 25 fantasy points. He's the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy, 33.4 as we head into Monday Night Football. But one of the reasons why we liked him so much in the preseason, he was on my preseason love list. He was a sleeper for me. He was, other people were bullish on him coming to Dallas as well, which is that he's in an offensive system where and a quarterback that can use his skill set the best. Like, he's not in a run-heavy offense with Mason Rudolph quarterbacking it, or the ghost of Ben Roethlisberger, or whatever. I mean, like, he's got a real quarterback in Dak Prescott, and they're going to want to throw. This is the thing that's most encouraging to me. So far this year, he's got 9 end zone targets. That is tied for the most in the NFL. Like, and they're obviously going to use him deep. Getting CeeDee Lamb back will help, but like in his first game where he's an alpha wide receiver 1, I mean, 8 for 124, 2 touchdowns. He gets the 11 targets. Again, we're not expecting 40 points every game, but he did George Pickens type things. He won jump balls. He won matchups. He got off the line of scrimmage as well. Aloha Bricks, our old friend Aloha Bricks, says, do you think George Pickens will finish as a top 20 wide receiver? Should I sell high or keep him? I would keep him. Yes, I do think I would rank him probably, if I was ranking for the rest of the season, I'd probably put him somewhere in the wide receiver 15 range.
Yep.
Jay, so I do think he's a top 20 wide receiver. I think there's more volatility with him just because so many of his targets are down the field. He's got a higher depth of higher depth of target than a lot of wide receivers, so there's more variance there. But at the end of the day, good quarterback, good offense, talented player in a system that I think's made for him. I do think he's, somewhat volatile, legit wide receiver 2.
Yep, agreed there. I think maybe the more interesting wide receiver question coming out of last night is, what is Romeo Doubs? Because Romeo Doubs looks like Jordan Love's number 1 target. Jordan Love is a guy who airs it out. He scores the 3 touchdowns last night, which is not going to sustain. But what could sustain is Romeo Doubs being the number 1 wide receiver in a potentially elite offense. So how much are you buying that Romeo Doubs can be, perhaps not a wide receiver 2, but like a really high-end wide receiver 3?
I think he's more of like a mid-tier wide receiver 3 with some real variance. Look, 3 touchdowns is 3 touchdowns, man. You know what I mean? And he finishes, with 29.8 fantasy points. But think about that. He scored 3 touchdowns, and he still couldn't crack 30 fantasy points. He had 58 yards.
Yeah.
6 for 5 in a game in which the Packers put up 40 points, and Romeo Doubs had 3 touchdowns. He still had under 60 yards receiving. He had a 22% target share in this game. It's not like he had some massive 35, even 32% target share. 22% target share, which was nice. And on the season, he's got a 17% target share. So, I will say that I think he is him and Tucker Kraft are the 2 clear-cut red zone and end zone threats that Jordan Love likes. When they get in close, if they're not giving it to Josh Jacobs, they're going to throw to Tucker Kraft or Romeo Doubs. But again, he's had 2 different games under 30 yards. He's been under 70 receiving yards in every game this season. And so I'm more of the, if somebody wants to give you a more consistent usable piece for Romeo Doubs, I would sell high on Romeo Doubs. I think he's a shaky wide receiver 3. They're on a bye this week, by the way. If there's one positive, they're out of the bye. Home to Cincinnati, at Arizona, at Pittsburgh. So 3 straight games where you feel like a pretty good offense, pretty good matchups, I should say.
Yeah, I would almost think of Dobbs as like a touchdown-dependent tight end.
Yeah.
Because it's like end zone based and he needs touchdowns to score.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.